Crow, did you hear that? Card games on motorcycles!
Card games on motorcycles?
Card game on motorcycles!
Card games 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 on motorcycles! Card games on motorcycles!
I came.
What?
Now with that cleared out of the way, the Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's era introduced a variety of cards meant to be used for the newly introduced synchro summoning mechanic. It made a massive impact on the game up to the point you were playing solitaire on speed, while also showing us what a wild and active time it was to be a duelist.
Dandelion, where have you been all my life? I wish you were still there.
The game's summoning mechanic became so popular and versatile it was practically stupid of you not to use synchro monsters. But what if...
Said no one.
What if you could counter them? The simple thought resulted in the creation of an anti-synchro archetype, Meklord. In the show, they were machines created by some bullshit in the future that drove humanity to extinction.
Yeah, they committed mass genocide on humanity. Goddamn.
And were used by a guy who goes by the name Aporia, an android who was in the group representing the last remaining remnants of humanity and its hopes and dreams. The four called this group Illuster's 4 Stars of Destruction, whose name, while epic, is quite contradictory and very underwhelming, considering the members of this group use Time Lords, TG, Meklords, and Malefic. But I'm covering things separately, which means you get only one of these 4, and that's Meklord. Meklord, also known as Machine Imperial, is an archetype that has a series of monsters that split into several groups. They are Meklord Emperor, Meklord Astro, and Meklord Army. It's basically a ranking system. Army is of course the foot soldiers, Emperor are the boss monsters who focus on neutralizing synchro monsters, and Astro who are the last resort OTK of the series. The foot soldiers of Weisel, Skeel, and Granol are focusing on piercing battle damage, recursion when destroyed, and halving a monster's attack respectively, and gaining a slim attack boost based on other Meklord monsters on the field. Very ineffective, or more so outdated, and really bad. It's likely they're designed to be just set filler cards.
I mean, they are an army, and soldiers are considered fodder in many ways, but this is both disrespectful and embarrassing.
Now the Emperors, Weisel, Skeel, and Granol. Yes, it's sort of confusing, but again, these are the Emperors, the ones in charge of their respectively named armies, the generals, if you will. They are a bit more interesting. In the show, they were represented by being split up into 5 pieces that work with a designated main piece. For example, the main core or centerpiece Meklord Emperor Weisel, with an infinity sign after its name, is the body. It then has 4 sets of complementary pieces that comprise the limbs and the head, making up the body and completing the Meklord, while making sure to tell you which Meklord is on the field and to which Meklord the pieces belong to.
Basically assemble Exodia on the field, as opposed to the hand. However, in real life it's more like summoning Exodia Necros.
They can be summoned from the hand when a face-up monster you control is destroyed by a card effect. They can then equip a synchro monster your opponent controls to themselves and gain their attack. They also have their own individual effects. Emperor Weisel can get a spell for free, Emperor Skeel can remove an equipped monster to attack directly, and Emperor Granol can special summon one of its equipped monsters on the field. Emperor Granol is a little different. Like, for example, he doesn't have the restrictions other monsters you control cannot declare an attack that Weisel and Skeel share. Also gains attack and defense equal to half your life points on top the synchro monsters equipped to it, which is nice. However, they all have one issue: no protection. Look, not every card is perfect, and over time they become more and more forgettable. But still, nothing? To this day baffles me more than the fact that most archetype boss monsters are so terrible. The Namanaga, the deity of poisonous snakes, a boss monster summoned off of a trap card that has the best protection in the game. This card came out in 2007, and to this day no one tries to copy and paste her protection effects onto their boss monsters. Not once. Yes, the cannot be targeted and is unaffected by other cards and their effects is a bit too extreme of a protection effect for these guys, but at this point I think it's perfectly warranted. Putting that aside, Weisel has a good 2500 attack and negation, no matter what kind is appreciated. Skeel is a terrible OTK enabler.
More like disabler.
And Granol is I mean, he can give you a powerful monster you snatch from your opponent to your field, and if you haven't taken any damage, it will have a base 4000 attack. It also doesn't prevent your other monsters from attacking, but he has no protection. Quite literally lives by the glass cannon approach. And finally, we have the last resort one.
Well, two.
The Meklord Astro monsters. The first one, Meklord Astro Mechanical, yes, it's spelled like that and I don't know why, is somewhat easier to summon and has an even 4000 stats. But he's basically Emperor's skill with a burn effect that prevents you from conducting your battle phase, and again, no protection. The second one, Meklord Astro Dragon Asterix, is somehow worse, requiring you to control 3 or more Meklord monsters, as opposed to Mechanical, who wants you to discard 3 Meklord monsters. It then removes the Meklords you control to add their attack to his, and when a synchro summon is made, he burns 1000 to the summoning player. Even this one doesn't have any protection, just fuck off. Okay, what else? They have a discount Pot of Greed, a weird monster reincarnation mystic box style trap card, a continuous spell that turns the Meklord army into marshmallow and vanilla monsters, and a field spell that gives targeting protection from synchro monsters.
God damn it.
Yeah, they're trash, and not of the recyclable type. Quite the disappointment considering they're supposed to be a counter to synchro summoning, but it gets even worse. Over time, synchro monsters became just one of 5 methods of summoning from the extra deck: fusions, synchro, xyzs, pendulums, and links. And while there are synchro-focused decks, even then they might incorporate the other mechanics into the extra deck. Over time, the Meklords became just a pile of unplayable pieces of cards, incapable of being used in current times, lost to the unimaginable pile of wasted cardboard. But one day, whether it was for nostalgia or to give them a second chance, they got support. And as such, the archetype managed to get some footing while on a downward slide. Meklord Army Deployer Obligato is an attempt at giving some synergy between the armies and their generals, allowing the army to swarm the field, and the ability to destroy itself in order to enable the summoning of your emperors on the field. Then we have Meklord Nucleus Infinity Core. There's actually an anime version that predates this one called Wise Core. Infinity Core is basically the show's version of Wise Core, but not designed to work with the Exodia assembly method. And Infinity Core does have the ability to search a Meklord spell Trap and to summon 1 Meklord Emperor from the deck at the cost of attacking with 1 monster during the battle phase. Speaking of the Emperors, one of them got an upgrade.
Well, technically speaking at least.
Meklord Emperor Weisel, Synchro Absorption, is whack. He has an easier summoning condition than his old form. It prevents a monster on the field from attacking this turn when summoned, and he can tribute himself in order to negate a card destruction effect. But realistically speaking, it's terrible. He offers protection, but his 2500 attack and loss of the Synchro Monster Absorption effect.
Ironic considering the name of the monster.
This is a wrong turn in terms of progression.
More like regression.
And speaking of regression, meet Meklord Astro Dragon Triskelion. What is this? For real though, what the hell is this? He basically focuses not just on synchro monsters, but extra deck monsters, which is great, while still focusing on giving you a benefit if you do equip a synchro monster. Sadly, he also focuses the archetype on an OTK style of play, and yet that doesn't upset me as much as knowing that they still have absolutely no protection. At this point, this is just sadistic masochism. Maybe their new spells and trap cards will give us a solid reason as to why they're made of paper mache. Well, Meklord Deflection is a nice permanent attack boost and protection from the grave, but it's a shame you can't use it on your turn in order to OTK your opponent. Meklord Assembly can net you a Meklord monster while having an effect that enables you to summon an Emperor and the ability to destroy a spell trap on the field. And finally, Meklord Astro the Eradicator is a decent recycler and swarmer while giving the ability to burn your opponent if they control a synchro monster. I asked for answers and got even more questions. Talk about 1 step forward, 2 steps back, in terms of both support and additions to the archetype. The lower level monsters serve as a nice band-aid to the old monsters, but the level 10 monster goes for a completely different vibe, straight up having a better effect, but an entirely different focus, while having spells and traps in the form of white noise. And that's about it. Talk about a fatal error in the operating system. Needs a bigger and more focused update. The idea to have them focus on every extra deck monster as opposed to just synchro monsters is present, but the direction is in a completely different playstyle. OTK. Unfortunately, they forgot the roots of the archetype, to which are to secure control of the field and to counter the opponent's synchro monsters. A series that quite literally defines itself as the anti-synchro archetype. This is quite the fumble. Rather than evolving with the game and adapting for the times in order to counter extra deck monsters in general, they focus on synchro monsters and yet continue failing in that, not even trying to become some sort of floodgate style of archetype that focuses on neutralizing synchro monsters. And worst of all, they have nothing in terms of securing said style of play. Some type of protection is required nowadays, not just to pressure your opponent, rather to secure your plays, as people tend to, negate your cards and their effects. Intimidation and control should be this archetype's priority, but instead it just tells you,
Hi, I focus on synchro monsters and fail spectacularly at my job.
maybe one day they'll get a tune-up and succeed in their goal and have some sort of standing power. And hey, Arcana Force got some support that wasn't even in the show. So who knows, maybe Meklords will get the same treatment. But as it stands, for now, this genocidal threat from the future remains simply a hypothetical one. Thanks for watching, hope you're doing well, and have a nice day.